What's the matter with you?
It's my nerves, sir.
Your nerves? Well, hell, you're just a goddamn coward. Shut up! Shut up! Send him up to the front! You hear me? You goddamn coward!
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. Stolen valor is a very important military term. It means that you've lied about your service. Perhaps you didn't serve. Perhaps you lied about what you did during your service. Perhaps you're lying about your rank or your position inside of the military and inflating your ego in order to get some of the benefits that you get if you are a veteran in our society. And of course, nobody would argue against those benefits, right? But everyone respects the American veteran. Everybody respects those who fought and died for our country. And I guess the greatest way to respect them is to treat their service with honor and dignity. So stolen valor is when you take from the service members who deployed to war, who went and fought. I mean, the whole purpose of the military is like when your name and number gets called, this is what all the training's for, right? You go. Okay? Hopefully you don't have to. We're an anti-war channel. We don't like war. We don't want the war in Ukraine, Israel. We don't want any of it. Okay? We're not defenders of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. However, they happened. And so it's worth scrutinizing records of people who did lie about that, because thousands of young Americans went over there and died. Of course, we don't want any young American to go die anywhere, actually. But it's worth seeing the people who took those deaths and took that sacrifice from Americans and then weaponized it for their own political gain, which is, of course, incredibly grotesque. A lot of people are saying that the current vice president candidate, and I say current because they may swap them out. You never know. They don't really care, right? His name's Tim Walz. He's this dude from Minnesota. He did serve in the National Guard, and he served for 20 plus years in the National Guard. Why people are saying stolen valor about Tim Walz is not because of that service, which is empirical, right? He did do that. We're not trying to mock him for it or anything like that. We're trying to talk about three major points that people have brought up about Tim Walz that don't square with reality. One, Tim Walz regularly lies about his service. What did Tim Walz do? He went and was stationed in Italy, not in a war zone, and then came home. This is what Tim Walz did. Tim Walz regularly said, and you can see him here with a giant poster saying that he served in Afghanistan. You didn't serve in Afghanistan. He didn't serve in Afghanistan or Iraq. And Tim Walz lies about his rank in the military. These are demonstrable things that are on camera, on video. Tim Walz lies to reporters, forcing them to have to change their articles, like this. 24-year veteran of the Army National Guard, recently returned from serving in Iraq. Got it. Actually, Italy. You know what? Are you a veteran? Do you know any veteran? Why don't you call them today and ask them, hey, do you know the difference between Iraq and Italy? Especially if they served in the global war on terror. I think they'd know. Tim Walz announces candidacy for U.S. Congress. Tim Walz's very first campaign was built on a lie. This is the timwalz.org website. Walz, a veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom. No, you're not, dude. You've literally lied about that. On top of all of this insult, the three lies, I served in Iraq, I served in Afghanistan, and he says he is a command sergeant major. When he retired, that's a lie. He was a master sergeant when he retired. This is provable. The National Guard says so. But he's on camera lying about his rank. On top of all of that, his actions in wartime are what causes his own team to actually turn against him. His own unit in National Guard, they're all doing the rounds on media, social media, and on Fox. Fox's entire primetime lineup last night were people who served with Tim Walz saying, you know what? Like, this guy abandoned us. These are the things that are particularly unforgivable. So when his unit got called up, Tim Walz retired, said, peace, I'm out. He was in charge. He had been there for a long time. So you time and grade, right? He was way up at the top. And he was supposed to lead these men into battle. And he said, see ya! Have a good time in Iraq. Some of those boys died serving their country. Tim Walz was sitting fat and happy collecting a check in Congress from the taxpayers when that happened. And so these are like not attack ads or anything. This is known fact about Tim Walz. And of course, this is something that the military communities are not going to look kindly upon, especially those men and women who did fight and who did sacrifice and who got very hurt along the way. And many of them didn't return. Thousands and thousands of Americans didn't return. Not being Tim Walz, social media flooded with pictures of veterans serving country after he ducked combat in Iraq. Tim Walz sat around and collected drill pay from the American taxpayer, and then as soon as it came to pick up arms and lead his men into combat, he said, see ya. Social media is flooded with pictures of veterans serving his country following the Democrat vice presidential nominee Tim Walz ducking combat in Iraq. On Wednesday, posts saying, me not being Tim Walz, went viral with veterans from various branches of the U.S. military posting pictures of them deployed around the world, pictures taken in air cockpits, war-torn countries, next to armored vehicles in the battlefield, and so much more. Let's look at some of them. Here's a photo of me not being Tim Walz. Yeah. Here's a photo of me not being Tim Walz. Here's a photo of me not being Tim Walz. Great watch there, man. Sharp-looking watch, brightly. Here's a photo of me not being Tim Walz. This is Kurt Schlichter. Love this account. You should follow Kurt. This is Kurt in what I think is Minneapolis. Might be Detroit. Not exactly sure. One of those two. Or Baltimore. One of those two. I don't actually know. Vets, post your photo not being Tim Walz. Here I am in Afghanistan, not being Tim Walz. Yeah. Wow, would you look at that? Me not being Tim Walz. Yeah. A photo of myself in Afghanistan, not being Tim Walz. Well, well, well. Here's a photo of me not being Tim Walz. Look at these boys. Look at these boys. Pew, 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 pew. Here's a photo of me not being Tim Walz. Bearded vet. I love this account. Great account. Here's Sean Ryan. He's a fantastic YouTuber. You should get in and follow his channel. He's amazing. I hope to have him on the show soon. It seems I've misspelled Walz in my last post. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Sincerest apologies. Let me correct my previous post. This is a photo of me not being Tim Walz. Some of us answered the call, and some of us tucked and ran. What does this look like? It look like maybe some snow on the ground? Is this Afghanistan? I'm not exactly sure. But Sean Ryan is a badass American. Me not being Tim Walz. Here's a photo of me not being Tim Walz. Sean Parnell. It's great, fantastic, great American. And good taste in cigarettes. I don't know. He's got a cigarette and he's got a Red Bull. That's a man's lunch right there. This is Sean Ryan misspelling Walz, as he said in his previous post. Some of us answered the call, and some of us cowered in the rear. Here's this is Sean Ryan with war paint on. Again, I encourage you to follow his YouTube channel. He's got a great channel. Ladies and gentlemen, this is pretty unbelievably devastating for those who actually did serve. Adam Kinzinger trying to come for J.D. Vance, who saw 9/11, signed up in the Marines, and then was deployed to Iraq, saying J.D. Was in public affairs. Okay? It's not like he was kicking down doors. See? He was just in public affairs in Iraq. Yeah, Adam Kinzinger getting completely wrecked here by Jeff Ingersoll, who's the editor of the Daily Caller. Adam, with all due respect, I know twice awarded Lance Corporals in public affairs that would have flipped you inside and worn you like an effing boot sock. JD's Ock field is irrelevant to whether or not Walz lied about his service, which he did. Me somewhere off the coast, where Tim Walz wasn't. Pretty cool. That was massive. I would love to be on one of those. I'd love to get an opportunity to fly into one of these incredible carriers. Me and some Air Force buddies, proudly serving all over the world, sending a message to Tim Walz. Look at them all flipping him off. Look at that. Would you look at that? Man, these vet communities, dude. F around and find out. This is Congressman Mike Walz saying it's Walz, not Tim Walz. Here's Congressman Mike Walz in what has to be Afghanistan, right? Based on the look of it. But no matter what, definitely somewhere where Tim Walz was not. Sitting fat and happy, collecting a paycheck. Incredible. Really incredible. Members of the media are shocked at some of the stories that they're hearing. Members of Tim Walz's battalion are flaming him over the stolen valor and saying that he served when he didn't serve in a war zone. Just a matter of fact. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Joel Berry, also a great account. I subscribe to him, and he's a Marine Corps veteran and a grumpy dad. Yeah. So Iraq war veterans have been confronting Tim Walz for years about this. Tim Walz is somebody who's regularly positioned himself as a veteran of these wars when he was not in combat deployment. The people who were there have, again, been sounding off about what this means to them, this stolen valor, and it's always important to let them speak. On our show today, we had the great Wesley Hunt, who's a member of Congress who did deploy to Iraq, and here's what he had to say about Tim Walz claiming he carried a firearm in war. Go. I want to show you one quick clip and just get your reaction to it, because again, I'm trying to synthesize this for the less than 1%, as you said, who actually serve their country, who may not understand these ranks and may not understand this issue. When Tim Walz is running for governor, he does a speech where he says, I want to ban all firearms because I carried them in war. Here's the speech, and I want to get your reaction to it.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Okay, so it's like, what does that say to you? And now this is an empirical fact, all right? He did not deploy to a war zone, and he's having to stealth edit all of his articles saying that he actually spent the war in Italy. So what does this say to you?
If he's claiming that a civilian-made AR-15 is a weapon of war, it just basically proves that he's never been to war, because nobody that goes to war is going to pick up a civilian-made AR-15 and walk into war with it. And by the way, as an Apache driver, that's a weapon of war. It has Hellfire missiles on it, rockets, and a 30-millimeter chain gun. That's a weapon of war to me. And I'm really sick of liberals using the word weapon of war. This crap started with Beta Reward. They have no idea what a weapon of war is. These people can't tell me the difference between 5.56 and 7.62. And so if you're going to sit here and talk all that trash about, oh, we're going to take your guns away and take away AR-15, and when I went to war and you didn't go to war, it just proves how ridiculous this argument is. And again, a civilian-made AR-15, I hate to break it to all you libs, that is not a weapon of war. I can show you a weapon of war. A saw is a weapon of war. My Apache is a weapon of war. An Abrams tank is a weapon of war. I could show you some weapons of war. An F-22 Raptor. Let's have a serious conversation about a weapon of war. And it's not a civilian-made AR-15 that you carried in war that you never even went to.
Whew. Whew, man, that's about as hot as the barrel of your saw, sir. That is, off the Apache. Holy smokes.